The Premier League games are coming thick and fast. We're already on to game week 2. We had a look at last week's fixtures, we've done a little preview for them and we reviewed them after the results had come in, with obviously some shock results in there, as there always is in the Premier League, with it being the most competitive league in the world. You can never know what's going to happen, and again we've got some very interesting fixtures to look forward to this week. My name's Jack from the JL Media YouTube channel. If you're new around here, please do hit the like button and subscribe. I really appreciate all the support I can get at the moment, and let's dive straight into the first fixture of this weekend. So the first fixture this weekend is West Ham hosting Chelsea at the London Stadium. Both of these teams had slightly disappointing starts this season. West Ham lost 3-0 away at Sunderland, and Chelsea drew 0-0 at home to Crystal Palace in a game that most of their fans were probably expecting to get a result from. So they've got a lot to make up for from the first week. This is the Friday night game at 8 o'clock, so I'm recording this on the Thursday morning. That we played tomorrow night. I think it's going to be a tight game. We've seen from both West Ham and Chelsea that they didn't really have much going forward from the first games, in my opinion, which is surprising. Chelsea's invested a lot into their attack. West Ham understandably lost Kudus, so straight away they're losing a lot of creativity from their side, and it's all about how Graham Potter's going to adapt to that. As for Chelsea, I think they've obviously signed a lot of new players. It's going to take a lot of time for them to settle into the team and gel, as it always is with a lot of teams who sign a lot of players and have to try and embed them into the squad. And lots of teams have done that at the start of this window, going into the start of the season. So it's interesting for Chelsea to see how their season will develop, because I still think they'll have a good season. I did have them as an outsider, maybe to push on and challenge for the title after seeing their Club World Cup success in the summer, but obviously judging the Crystal Palace performance in the opening game at home, it might be a bit difficult to sustain the performances of the likes of Arsenal, Liverpool and Man City, who have been consistent for many years. I am going to go with the Chelsea winning this game, just because I think they do have enough firepower in the squad to score a couple of goals against West Ham. And I wasn't convinced by West Ham's performance, especially the second half performance against Sunderland. I think there's a lot of work for Graham Potter to do to get that squad working and creating chances. With the loss of Mohamed Kudus, maybe it's a change of system, a change of formation that's needed. They have signed a couple of players. El Hadji Malik Diouf is the left back, who had a really good, promising debut against Sunderland, especially in that first half. So there's positive signs there for West Ham. I was tempted to go with the draw, but I'm going to go with the Chelsea win. I think they just might have enough, and they have to get their season started after a disappointing draw at home at Crystal Palace, and I think this is the perfect game. It's a London derby, and I think they've got to have enough in them just to try and get that result over the line. Yeah, Chelsea and West Ham fans, let us know below your thoughts on the start of the season and your thoughts going into this game. Are you confident that your team will get the result and get the 3 points over the line, put them on the board, and start making your way into the season on a positive spin? So the next game is Manchester City hosting Tottenham, the 12:30 kickoff on the Saturday at the Etihad Stadium. Manchester City and Tottenham both had a very good start to the season in the opening weekend. Manchester City beat Wolves at Molineux 4-0 and Tottenham beat Burnley at home 3-0. So comfortable results for both of them teams. I probably would have expected that for the first game of the season, seeing obviously their squads. Tottenham have invested really well. At the moment, like I say, I'm recording this on the Thursday morning, it looks like Tottenham have just missed out on the deal to sign Eberechi Eze. It looks like he's on his way to Arsenal. They did have a fee agreed for him, and unfortunately Arsenal's come in at the last second, matched the bid, and Eberechi Eze, his preference is to play for Arsenal. So that's a big miss for Tottenham. They already missed out on Morgan Gibbs-White at the start of the window. But they've got a perfectly good squad, a capable squad there. They've signed Mohamed Kudus from West Ham, and he had a fantastic debut, a couple of assists. Richarlison got a couple of goals against Burnley. So it's looking good. Thomas Frank's system seems to be working really well for Tottenham. They had a fairly good pre-season, and they nearly got the result in the Super Cup against Paris Saint-Germain. So things definitely look on the up for them. And as I said in my in my preview for last week, I think Tottenham will have a really good season. They won't have the season that they had last year. Similar story to Man United. That was a complete anomaly, and they've got a very good manager in Thomas Frank, who seems to be getting his system working from the get-go. As for Manchester City, they're obviously at home, and a lot of their business has been fantastic this summer. We've seen Ait Nouri and Tierney Reinders having an amazing debut against Wolves. Reinders especially had a goal and an assist in that game. Erling Haaland seemed to be back to his best with a couple of goals as well. So it's making it up to be an interesting game. Tottenham have fared well against Manchester City in recent seasons. They seem to normally have Manchester City's number. I'm still going to go with the Manchester City win. I think Pep Guardiola this season is on a redemption arc. He's got to come back and challenge for the title after such a disappointing season last year. They were obviously riddled with injuries, as we've gone over multiple times. So for obviously the circumstances and everything like that, they didn't have a good year. But they'll definitely be back this year, and I think looking at the system straight away and how they played against Wolves, it was so dominant and so comfortable, and the players that they're able to bring off the bench and change the game as well, even when they're winning so comfortably, it just goes to show the depth that Manchester City have. And I think they'll push on for the league title, and they can be pushing on for the Champions League this season as well. They'll be going really far, or looking to go really far into that competition. So it's looking very good, very positive for Manchester City at the moment. As for Tottenham as well, the similar story. They look really good. I just think it's a difficult game. They've still got some more favourable fixtures coming up as we get further into the season after they get past the Manchester City one. So Tottenham, you've got lots to look forward to. I just think this game, it might be slightly difficult. I can see them getting a goal. I can see them getting a goal. They've got loads of creativity in that squad, but I'm going to go with a Manchester City win for the early kick-off on the Saturday. So yeah, let me know below, Manchester City fans, are you happy with the business that you've done in this window? I think you've bought amazingly. You've replaced some top players with some really good up and coming young players as well. And as for Tottenham, I think you had a fantastic start of the season. Let me know your thoughts on Thomas Frank so far. Are you convinced that he's the right man for the job? I know you've had lots of managers recently who's come in, lots of high profile managers, and they've done alright. Ange Postecoglou won the Europa League especially, but they haven't really kicked on. I think maybe Thomas Frank could be different, as is coming in from Brentford, and it seems to be working at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to change the setup of the video slightly from last week when I'd done the three o'clock kickoffs individually. I'm just going to try and put them all into one segment here for yourself. So the first one we've got is Bournemouth hosting Wolves at the Vitality Stadium. Bournemouth had a difficult opening game. They were the very first game of this 2025-26 Premier League season away at Liverpool, and they really put up a respectable performance. They got beat 4-2. 2 late goals from Liverpool that won the game in the end. Bournemouth fought back from 2-0 down to draw the game back to 2-2. And they look really comfortable. Despite having their whole defence ripped apart in the summer transfer window, nothing seems to have changed with the way that Bournemouth play, and it's credit to Andoni Iraola and his system, and obviously the players that stuck by Bournemouth in this window, who've decided to stay rather than move away if the opportunity was there, the likes of Antoine Semenyo and Ivan Nilsson. So the credit to them, they've got a really good squad. Wolves, as we mentioned before, had a disappointing opening day at home to Manchester City. They got beat 4-0. So this one, for me, Bournemouth looked good. Wolves had slight problems in that game. It was obviously a difficult game, so you can't look too much into it. They were playing against Manchester City, and Bournemouth's going to be a different opposition playing away from home. I'm going to go with a Bournemouth win. I'm back in the home team on this one again. I just like what I see from them. I really like Bournemouth as a club, and I think they play such an attractive style of football, and it goes really unnoticed. Not many teams look at Bournemouth and respect the way that they play, in my opinion. I think that there needs to be a lot more credit goes to them, and especially to Andoni Iraola. He's a fantastic manager. And you know, Bournemouth, to be fair, had a really good season last season, and I think that they can kick on and continue that form this year. Even, like I say, the fact that they've had the defence ripped apart, it doesn't seem to have affected them. Yes, they conceded 4 goals. They're playing Liverpool, and Liverpool will score goals for fun. The attack that they've got and the reinforcements that they've brought in this season, they're a really dangerous side. So that's got nothing to do with the fact that Bournemouth's ability to play football the way they do is not good enough. It totally is. So credit to Bournemouth. Wolves, again, I think it's a difficult game for them. I'm going to go with the Bournemouth win. It's nothing against Wolves at all. They had a difficult opening game, and this one is still a difficult game. It's hard to go and get results. We've seen last season the likes of Arsenal, Manchester City struggle to go and get results at Bournemouth. These are top teams, and again it goes back to the way they play. They're so intense in every action, and I just think they're going to have a little bit too much for Wolves. They've got such a good attack. Both of these sides have very good attacks. Obviously, Jorgen Strand-Larsen up front for Wolves is a very good forward, and obviously got Semenyo and Evan Nilsson, as I mentioned before, for Bournemouth. So it will be a battle of the forwards. I just think Bournemouth's going to have the edge and come out on top in that one. But yeah, let me know, Wolves fans, were you disappointed with the result in the opening game? I know maybe you didn't expect anything from the game, but maybe you want to see a little bit more from the performance. And obviously for Bournemouth fans, you've had a summer rebuild again, as you always seem to do. But in my opinion, I personally think it hasn't affected you in the slightest. I think you're looking really strong going into the season, and I'm positive for Bournemouth that they can have another good, strong year in the Premier League. And obviously the next 3 o'clock kick-off we've got is Burnley hosting Sunderland at Turf Moor. These are two of the promoted teams who come up. Burnley finished second in the Championship last year, losing out on the final day to Leeds, and Sunderland come up in the playoffs. So two contrasting teams here on the opening weekend. Burnley had a poor result away at Tottenham. Sunderland had a fantastic result at home to West Ham. Burnley lost 3-0, Sunderland won 3-0. So Sunderland have done really well in the transfer market this window. They've bought really well, improved areas of the pitch that they needed to, all across the board. And as for Burnley, they've brought in some experience, which I think they needed, but they did lose James Trafford, which was a massive loss to them. So for this one, Sunderland look like coming into the game off the first week, they would be the favourites. I wouldn't write Burnley off, because I think they've got to they have to look at this as a 6-pointer, as I mentioned in the review of the weekend fixtures. Looking ahead to this one, this is a 6-pointer for both of these teams, who are predicted to be in and around the relegation battle as promoted sides. And I know a lot of people had predicted Sunderland now after their first weekend result against West Ham that maybe they'll be steering clear. It is only one game and it's only one result. It's hard to say off one game that Sunderland are going to be fine and away from the relegation zone, although they played fantastically well and got an amazing result. So it is for me a 6-pointer, and I'm going to go with a draw in this game. I think Sunderland will be on a high from the previous result, and I think Burnley will be slightly deflated. But they'll say this is it's the first home game of the season. It's an opportunity for them to get a point on the board. And Burnley last season in the Championship were very resolute defensively. Sunderland look like they've got a very good attack, scoring 3 goals in the opening game. So that's going to be the contrast of the game. Is Burnley going to be solid enough and resolute in defence? And can Sunderland break down that Burnley defence and score a couple of goals early on in the game? That would set them up. And Sunderland could be looking at 6 points from the first 2 games, which is emphatic, really, when you think about it. I don't think many Sunderland fans will have predicted that, but they'll definitely take it. So, yeah, I'm going to go with a draw anyway. Anything is possible with this as it's a 6-pointer, so both teams are going to be going for it. It'll be interesting to see who will come out on top out of both of these promoted teams in this early season fixture. They'll both be trying to figure each other out. It's 2 completely different teams from the ones they will have played each other with in the Championship last year, especially from Sunderland's point of view. They've strengthened massively, so it'll be a difficult outfit for Burnley, but I'm thinking they may just be able to hold on and hang on for a point, be defensively solid and try and grind out that first point of the season. And then we move on to the final 3 o'clock kickoff. The third and final 3 o'clock kickoff is Brentford hosting Aston Villa at the G-Tech Community Stadium. So Brentford in the first game fell to a 3-1 defeat away at Nottingham Forest, and Aston Villa drew 0-0 at home to Newcastle. Both of these teams in the opening games looked slightly toothless up front. There was a lot of teams, as I mentioned in the review of the weekend fixtures, that they didn't look like they had enough firepower up front in the opening game, and a lot of them were surprised, and one of them was Aston Villa. I thought they were going to be really up for the first game of the season at home to Newcastle, and I thought they might have got a result in that game. They did end up coming away with a point, and the one thing to note is that Ezri Konsa will be suspended for this game at Brentford. He was obviously red carded in that game for bringing down Anthony Gordon. So it's going to be how Aston Villa adjust, who just comes in for Aston Villa. I know Villa had their new signing, Marco Bizzo, starting for the game against Newcastle. I said in the preview for that game I thought that he was coming in to be the Emilio Martinez backup, not the replacement, but I realised that Emilio Martinez was suspended because he got sent off towards the end of last season in the last game against Man United. So Marco Bizzo come in and start that game. He actually had a very good game, so he's staked a case potentially to start this one as well. I don't know if Martinez is still suspended or not, so it may be out of his control whether he can play or not. So yeah, Brentford and Aston Villa, both teams looked a little bit lacklustre in the opening week. But I'm going to go with an Aston Villa win in this one. I think they're going to kick on from the second game and start the season positively. 4 points from 2 games, I think they'll take that. Brentford, I said from the start that I thought they would struggle. Keith Andrews has come in. He was the set-piece coach at Brentford. And to come in as a managerial role is a big step for him. I don't know if it's too big of a step for him. I think when you've seen the likes of some of the promoted teams, Sunderland and Leeds winning, they're staking a case they want to fight and stay up in this Premier League. They don't want to go straight back down. Brentford can easily get dragged into that if they start the season in the poor run of form. So they need to steer away from that. Keith Andrews needs to get it under control and get the lads playing. We know Brentford have a designated DNA style under Thomas Frank, and it's whether Keith Andrews can replicate that or implement his own style. That's of a similar type, because that's what was keeping Brentford in the league. They were so successful under Thomas Frank, staying in the league. They've never gone down since they'd come back up. So it's all about sustaining that mentality for Brentford. I just think Aston Villa, the quality that they've got, I had them potentially pushing up for the Champions League spots this year. They're obviously in the Europa League, so they've got that to contend with as well. But I do think they've got such a solid squad. Morgan Rogers and Ollie Watkins is a fantastic duo up front for Aston Villa, and they've got a sensational midfield which can control any game. So yeah, I fancy them for this game. The third and final 3 o'clock kick-off. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how both of these teams get on from last week. As I say, they both didn't really create many chances. So let's see who's going to come out on top in that one. Okay then, and the 5:30 kick-off on the Saturday night is Arsenal hosting Leeds at the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal got a good win at Old Trafford against Man United. It was a 1-0 win. I thought Man United were the better team in the game, but Arsenal come away with the 3 points. They were clinical. They scored their opportunity from the set piece. We know Arsenal are fantastic from set pieces. They've got a great sized squad. When they get that ball in the box, they're normally one of their players is getting on the end of it, and it was Ricardo Calafiori in that game. Leeds also got a win in their opening game, 1-0 at home to Everton. I didn't see that coming, I'll be honest. I thought Everton have a fantastic squad. They've got a fantastic manager in David Moyes. It's not to say that Leeds don't have a fantastic squad or a fantastic manager in Daniel Farke, but I just thought that maybe Everton would have come out on top with it being Leeds' first game back. However, I underestimated the Ellen Road atmosphere because that was absolutely bouncing on the Monday night, and that carried Leeds throughout a lot of the game. It was 0-0 right up until the final 10 minutes, and then Leeds were awarded a penalty for James Tarkowski's handball, and Lucas Nemeka scored that penalty to make it 1-0 and hand Leeds the 3 points. So it's a great result for them, as I say, promoted team who's won their first game. They can go on and try and build a bit of momentum. However, I think they're going to fall to defeat against Arsenal. Arsenal are just a fantastic unit with Mikel Arteta as the manager. He's got them playing, some would call it a boring type of football. When you look at them, they're so controlled in the game. It's actually quite emphatic to watch how they move the ball and how they create chances within the game. And obviously with the addition of Gyökeres this season, they've been crying out for a number 9 for a long time now. A few seasons we're going back. There was rumours with Alexander Isak last season, but they've gone and got the other Swedish striker. They've got Gyökeres in, and I think he's going to be a great striker in the Premier League. I think he's going to have a really good season. I know he didn't have too many chances against Manchester United, but you've got to remember, again, it's all about him gelling into Arsenal's system. It's going to take a little bit of time, but as soon as he starts firing the goals in, you will know about it, and he will be up there competing for the golden boot. So yeah, I'll go with an Arsenal win. I think it'll be quite comfortable. Leeds will obviously be on a high from their win in the opening game, and again, I wouldn't look too much into it as a Leeds fan. If you lose this game, Arsenal are going to be up there competing for the title. If you can go there and get a result, I mean, that would be fantastic. If you can get at least a point even. So yeah, I think Leeds fans will be optimistic going into the game, but I'll go with an Arsenal win there, convincing for Arsenal. Okay then, so again I'm going to do a similar segment to what I've done with the 3 o'clock kickoffs. We've got two 2 o'clock kickoffs on the Sunday. The first one is Crystal Palace hosting Nottingham Forest. So as this has been recorded, Crystal Palace play tonight, Thursday night, in the Conference League qualifier. I'm not too sure who they're playing, But I fancy them to obviously get through that and get into the Conference League. They've got a fantastic squad. They will be happy with the result away at Chelsea. I think Crystal Palace had the Community Shield, which they ended up winning. Fantastic. They hadn't won a trophy in the history, and they won two in 2025, being the FA Cup and the Community Shield. So that's fantastic for them, starting the season, and then starting the season as well with a 0-0 draw at Chelsea. They look solid. Oliver Glasner, as I've said many times on this channel, I think he's a fantastic manager, similar to the job that Antonio Raiola has done at Bournemouth and many other managers in the Premier League. What Thomas Frank was doing at Brentford, what Hertela's doing at Brighton, Marco Silva at Fulham. These managers are consistently keeping these teams in the league and comfortably doing it as well. They're all mid-table teams. Never have been in and around the relegation zone. So it's fantastic to see Crystal Palace doing so well. Nottingham Forest started their season with a 3-1 win over Brentford. And what I'd mentioned in the first week was that an interesting comment from Nuno was that Nottingham Forest weren't quite ready and up to speed. I definitely didn't see that in the performance against Brentford. I thought they looked fantastic. Elliot Anderson in the midfield for Nottingham Forest is great business that they signed him last year. He done fantastic last season, and he's continuing that form onto this year. I know they've had a bid accepted, or they're in talks with Douglas Luiz to sign him as well. So if you've had him at that midfield as well, they've got a fantastic squad. And obviously Chris Wood, he's been a consistent Premier League striker, but he's never really hit the numbers that he did last season before in his history. Of playing for Burnley and Newcastle. So it's great to see him doing well at Nottingham Forest, and it's great to see that they've got a system that suits him. He just has to be there to convert the chances that they're creating. Dan Ndoye got a goal on his debut as well, so that seems to be a great coup from Bologna. For this one, it's really difficult to predict because I think these two are very evenly matched teams. I think they're going to be in and around the European places again. Crystal Palace obviously not finished mid-table last season, but I think they're going to kick on. I know they've just lost, or they're on the verge of losing Eberechi Eze to Arsenal, which is a massive part of their team. But it looks as though they're going to keep a hold of Mark Guéhi, Ismaïla Sarr, Jean-Philippe Mateta. So they've got this squad ready to go. And Eberechi Eze, as much as he's a fantastic player, no player is bigger than a football club, and that stands for Crystal Palace's case. I think they'll continue on the form that they've started going into this season. I am going to go with a draw. I think it's too hard to separate these two sides. Both defensively solid, have got great attacks, both counter-attacking style teams under Nuno and Oliver Glasner. So I am going to go with a draw. I think it's a fair result. I think both teams will be happy with that result as well. Crystal Palace will obviously be coming off the game tonight on the Thursday, and then they'll be playing on the Sunday, so it's a quick turnaround for them. Nottingham Forest get a little bit more of a rest, but it'll be interesting to see how both of these sides get on. Like I say, I think they're two very evenly matched teams, and I think they'll be finishing in and around each other come the end of this Premier League season. So yeah, very interested to watch this one at 2 o'clock on the Sunday. And then you've got the Everton and Brighton game, so that's at Goodison. Oh, sorry. It's not at Goodison Park, it's at Everton's new stadium, Bramley Moore Dock, or the Hill Dickinson Stadium has been renamed as. It would have been at Goodison, but they've just left that at the end of last season. So this is a massive game for Everton, being in the new stadium. I think the atmosphere is going to be electric. They obviously, like I say, they had a disappointing result away at Leeds. I don't think many fans will have seen that coming. Brighton, on the other hand, they drew 1-1 at home to Fulham in the opening week. They were so close to getting 3 points, and Rodrigo Muniz levelled the game in the 97th minute. They looked good all through the game as well, by the way, Brighton. They looked really good. Everton didn't create a lot of chances against Leeds, and that could be a problem going into the season for them. I think the game will be more open. Brighton play a more open style of football, so there'll be a lot more opportunity for Everton to get on the ball, try and create them chances. I'm going to go again with a draw in this one. Two very evenly matched teams. I wanted to predict an Everton win for being the first game in the new stadium, and I can totally see that happening. I just think Brighton's a very good side, and Hertela's got them playing very good football. Last season they had a good season finishing in the top half, and I was expecting Brighton to kick on this season as well and maybe push towards them European places a little bit like Nottingham Forest and Crystal Palace. So yeah, I'm going to go with a draw. I think it'll be a good atmosphere, a very good game. Everton fans, let me know your thoughts on moving to the new stadium. I think it looks fantastic. It's such a modern stadium, and I know Goodison. I've been to Goodison a couple of times, and it was obviously a traditional stadium. It was one of the iconic stadiums in English football. So yeah, it's nice to see Everton moving. They have fond memories of being at Goodison Park, and now this is an opportunity for them to make new memories in the new stadium, which is fantastic. So yeah, really looking forward to this game on the Sunday, as well as the Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest game. I think it's two evenly matched games at 2 o'clock on the Sunday. So we've got the 4:30 kickoff on the Sunday. Fulham at home to Manchester United at Craven Cottage. Fulham, like we mentioned before, got that 1-1 draw away at Brighton, which is a very good result for them. I think Fulham could have a very good season this year. The style of football that they're playing, and they've got really good squad depth. So obviously, we had Muniz coming off the bench for Raul Jimenez, and he got the goal. I think he staked a claim to start in this game. Marco Silva's got something to think about in that respect. Does he go with both of them up front? He normally plays in a 4-2-3-1 style system, so it's going to be one of the strikers. Is it going to be Jimenez, or is it going to be Muniz? Jimenez has been in the Premier League for a long time. He's got that experience playing with Wolves, and obviously Fulham. And then you've got Muniz, who's the young up-and-coming striker. He's showing potential. He's showing that he's got the capabilities to lead the line for Fulham and start in these games. But yeah, I think that's a decision that Marco Silva's got to think about, especially maybe not necessarily in this game, but going further into the season. If Muniz starts outperforming Jimenez in terms of his output and finishing chances, then he's got something to think about. As for Man United, they started the season at home to Arsenal, and as I mentioned, I thought Man United were the better team. I thought they were playing nice football, Ruben Amorim's system. You can start to see it in ebbs and flows. So yeah, they look good going into the season. I'm confident that Man United will have a good year, a far better year than what they did last season. And you look at the reinforcements that they brought in, Mbeumo, Cunha and Sesko. Straight away, that's a brand new attacking lineup, so that's amazing for them. When last season they didn't score enough goals, they were creating chances and nobody was there to put them away. They've got 3 clinical finishers there, and 2 of them are Premier League proven. We've seen Sesko come off the bench and have a little cameo against Arsenal, about half an hour, so he didn't really have much chance to have an impact or an influence on the game. It'll be interesting to see if he starts him in this game. It's a difficult one going away to Fulham. I am going to go again, boring, with another draw in this one. I just think that it's going to take Man United a little bit of time for that front three to gel. But again, similar to Gyökeres fitting into Arsenal's system, I think when we see that click, we're going to see a completely different side of Man United, and they're going to be converting chances and scoring goals for fun. So it's just about taking the time, being patient, as they were towards the end of last season with Ruben Amorim. They weren't getting the results in the Premier League. They were in the Europa League. And it's just about transforming that and seeing that in the league form. That's what they've got to focus on going into this season. They don't have any European football. They've obviously got the domestic cups when they kick in. But the league form's the most important thing for Man United, and they want to be finishing a lot higher than what they did last season. I think a draw's a fair result. Fulham are a good side. I think the games are normally tight between Fulham and Man United. There's not too much in it. I think Man United beat Fulham last season 1-0 at Craven Cottage. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how both teams get on. But Man United fans, let us know below your thoughts. Did you think, have any opinions on the Sesko cameo? I know it was only half an hour. It was hard to really judge, to be fair. But Cunha and Mbeumo, I thought Cunha had a fantastic game. He was really driving through that Arsenal defence, and Mbeumo was obviously trying to make little chances here and there. But against the Arsenal defence, which is so resolute, it's very difficult. But I thought you looked confident in the game. Teams playing really well. Amorim's system, you can spot it from a mile off. So yeah, very, very interesting to see Man United's system. I'm looking forward to this one on the Sunday. I think it could be a boring Sunday if it turns out the way I've predicted it with 3 draws, but I just think all the teams are so evenly matched. When you look at the Premier League up and down, it's so hard to call in any case, because like we say, there's always a shock element in the weekend, and with all the teams being so tight, I think it's obviously natural just to say I think it's going to be a very, very close game. Okay then, and the final game is on the Monday night, the Bank Holiday Monday, 8 o'clock kick-off. It's Newcastle's first home game at St James's Park. They're of course hosting Liverpool. So there's been lots of back and forth in the transfer window between Newcastle and Liverpool. regarding Alexander Isak, who, as it stands, looks like he's going to be staying at Newcastle. He's made a big fuss about wanting to move, and he released a statement the other night when the PFA awards were being released and the PFA Team of the Year was announced, that broken promises and the trust is gone with Newcastle. So Newcastle's broken promises and the trust is no longer there, and that's why he thinks moving away is best for all parties. Newcastle released a statement within a few hours of Alexander Isak's, stating that there had been conversations had between player and the club about moving away if the deal was right for the club, and obviously if the conditions were right for Newcastle, and that being the money was right that Liverpool or other club was going to pay, and that Newcastle were going to get reinforcements in before selling Isak. Neither of those things have happened, so that's why it's looking likely at the moment that Alexander Isak is going to be staying at Newcastle. Whether he's going to play for Newcastle is a completely different story. He's definitely not going to be featuring in this game. He didn't feature at Aston Villa. So it's how long can Alexander Isak remain out the squad before he's reintegrated or before he decides he wants to play again for the club. As for Liverpool, they obviously haven't signed Alexander Isak. They did sign Hugo Ekitike, who Newcastle was also in for, and Liverpool come in and swooped him straight from Newcastle's hands. And he had a very good debut. He scored against Bournemouth, and he looked positive, fitting in straight away to that system. As I said, with a couple of other strikers, Sesko and Gyökeres, it's going to take a little bit of time for them to bed in. Hugo Ekitike seemed to fit straight into Liverpool's system, obviously with that front three of Mohamed Salah and Cody Gakpo, with Florian Wirtz in behind them. So they've got a very good attack. They've got a very good squad overall. Ryan Gravenberch will be back for this game as he was suspended for the opener against Bournemouth. So that's going to bring a different dynamic to it. And Liverpool, I thought in the opening game against Bournemouth, there was opportunities for Bournemouth where they were wide open. And they've got two new fullbacks, Liverpool, and it's all about gelling them into that back four. How does that work for them? So I think there's going to be opportunities for Newcastle to exploit Liverpool. The problem with Newcastle is they don't have a number 9. So they started the Villa game with Anthony Gordon, and they had chances in that game that fell to all of the front three, Elanga, Gordon and Barnes, and none of them could put them away. So the atmosphere for this game is going to be absolutely bouncing, because there's obviously a lot of back and forth, as I've said, going between the Newcastle fans and the Liverpool fans. It's on a bank holiday Monday. It's the 8 o'clock kick-off. We seen Ellen Road on the Monday night against Everton. The atmosphere was ferocious. So I'm expecting similar things from this game. It's whether Liverpool can deal with that atmosphere. If it is going to be so intense, Newcastle are going to come firing out the blocks. They've got a lot to prove. Want to Alexander Isak, because he wants out and he wants to move to Liverpool, and that would be a statement if Newcastle could beat Liverpool. And then obviously Liverpool have a statement to prove, because they want to go and push on and retain the Premier League title. They started the season with a win. They want to continue that form on, and they've had quite a good record against Newcastle in the Premier League for a long time. So coming to Newcastle, they'll be confident that they can get a result. I'm going to go with a draw. Again, that's the last 4 games from the Sunday and the Monday onwards. I'm going to go with a draw. Again, I'm not trying to be boring. I just think, if anything, I think Liverpool are possibly the favourites. I just think Newcastle started well against Aston Villa. That was a great result for them, and I think they've got a good enough squad in terms of the defence looks solid. The midfield is fantastic. It's similar to Villa's. It can control any game that it plays. They've got a difficult opposition coming up with McAllister, Gravenberch and Wirtz, so they're going to have to deal with that. But I think the problem lies with Newcastle's attack, and they don't have anyone to put the chances away. So if they had a number 9, I think Newcastle are more than capable of winning this game. But I think I'm just going to go with a draw, because I think it's going to be 2 solid teams defensively. It's going to be difficult to break each one down, and I don't think there's going to be many goals in it. I know lots of people are predicting it to be high scoring. I think it's going to be very low scoring. I know we had the 3-3 draw last season between Newcastle and Liverpool. But yeah, I'm going to go with a draw. So Liverpool fans, let me know your thoughts on the Isak saga. Do you still think he's going to sign for Liverpool towards the end of the season? I must admit, it's looking very unlikely. I know lots of Liverpool fans have been confident that he's going to sign for Liverpool. And unfortunately Newcastle has put their foot down and stated in their statement that Isak will not be leaving the club this summer. As for Newcastle, obviously they are still interested in Johan Wissa. As it stands, they had a bid rejected yesterday of £35 million up front and 5 million add-ons. Brentford are demanding £60 million for the 28-year-old who is out of contract next summer. It seems a little bit of a high fee to be asking, but he's Brentford's player, and Brentford can demand the fee that they want for him. And obviously Spurs are still shown an interest. They've now lost out on the Eze deal, so there could be a potential that Spurs come in and they pay the 60 million and Johan Wissa would be a Spurs player. So yeah, that's the thing about for Newcastle. They've still got to figure out their striker situation and who they want to get in, first of all to replace Callum Wilson, and then they can start dealing with the Isaac situation and seeing if there's anyone out there who would be able to come in to facilitate a move for Alexander Isak towards the end of the window. Okay then, so that is the Week 2 preview for this weekend's fixtures. There's some tasty games, and I think there's going to be some high-scoring games. I think there's going to be some very tight games, as I predicted many draws towards the Sunday onwards games. I hope I'm wrong with that one. I would like to see some teams winning rather than, scoreless draws. We had a couple last season, obviously the Chelsea Crystal Palace game, Newcastle Aston Villa. We want to see goals, and we've got loads of strikers that's been signed this season in the Premier League. I think we could have a very good goal scoring season. There's going to be high scoring games as we get further into the year when teams start to gel, and obviously teams are playing more consistently. So let me know your thoughts on the preview there. Have I got anything drastically wrong? Apologise if I've obviously predicted your team to lose. It's nothing personal. It's just how I see the game from an outsider's perspective, or even if I've predicted your team to not win and draw. It's again nothing personal. Just trying to look ahead to the fixtures and obviously just a little bit of fun. So then when we do the review, we can see what we got right and what we got wrong, and obviously if anyone's surprised us in the coming week. If you've enjoyed this video, please do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be coming out with the review of this after the weekend's fixtures, so it'll probably be on the Tuesday again after Newcastle and Liverpool have played on the Monday night, and we'll go through all the results and see which team has continued on, maybe their winning result from the opening weekend, or which team has started their fight back and starting to pick up the points in the league. Yeah, I'll get the review out for this one probably on the Tuesday after Newcastle and Liverpool have played on the Monday night. I think that'll be the tastiest game of the weekend maybe. Man City Tottenham's a good game as well. Both of them have started the season really well, so there's lots to look forward to this weekend. Let me know if you'll be watching and tuning in to any of the games this weekend. And until the next one, I'll catch you later.
Artlist.io